Welcome back to another episode of the Legal Smith Unleashed. I'm attorney Kurt Smith here today with my legal lackeys Dylan Smith and Kason Dow. How you doing, boys?
Oh, better now that I'm here.
Worse now that he's across the table from me.
Boys, so how's things going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Sounds like you got some legal happenings you'd like to get off your chest.
Well, we've had some interesting little things go on lately. I had a recent case where, we had a trial coming up. Is that next week or what? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Had a trial coming up tomorrow, and we had some legal shenanigans played where opposing counsel decided to file a motion to continue the trial. And extend discovery, all of which was too late by law, too late under the facts of the case, violating the sanctity of the trial date. And yet we got in front of the judge, and the judge said, well, I don't see any prejudice to your client. You guys are exercising joint physical custody right now. Dad's getting what he wants in the joint custody. All Mom wants is a little child support. And I said, no, Judge, that's not what Mom wants. Mom doesn't want to pay child support, because if you look at the financial disclosures of the parties, Mom makes more than Dad, right? And so Mom's going to be the one ending up paying child support. That's what Mom's looking for, and Judge, you can't continue it. It's too late. And she said, well, that would be true if I ever followed the law, but instead what I'm going to do is go ahead and just do what I want. So I will continue it. And we deal with that a lot with the different judges doing kind of what they want to do, and this issue of who's prejudiced and who's not prejudiced. But what I was able to do with the judge is I said, look, if you're going to do this, I've done everything I can, okay? They keep asking for more and more and more documents. I've given them what I have. I've asked my client to get them what they have, get him what he has. He's gotten that to us. We've gotten that to them. They have everything that I think they need, or what they've asked for, at least what exists. And if they're going to go down this road, why haven't they done depositions? Why haven't they done subpoenas? Why haven't they done debtors examinations? And the judge is like, yeah, you're right. She should have been doing that. Opposing counsel should have been doing that. Why don't you go ahead and do that, opposing counsel? And she's like, whoa, when can I start? And she's like, how about now? How about you can start right now? Because if you come back to me again and ask me for another continuance, I might not be so nice, I think is the word she used, but I think what she meant was oblivious to the actualities of the law. So that was a fairly good, I don't know if it's the greatest outcome, but kind of pushing the onus back on the other side.
As per usual, just needed a little bit of legal Smith prowess in there.
Where it belonged. She really should.
Your hazel eyes through the glint of your pocket readers and make it happen.
Listen, these pocket readers, just so you know, have saved my bacon more than once. Because look, I'm gonna put it out there. When I first got them, I thought they were so dumb, but they were the only ones they had at the airport. So I thought I'm like, okay, I have to read something, and my poor little old eyes don't work as well as they used to, and I hated them. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? And then I realized they go right here on the back of my phone, okay? And so I can take these and I go, slide right there, slide it. I never lose my glasses again. Not that I need them. I'd get real glasses if I really needed glasses, but I don't.
Big sponsor in the show?
And you too, for only 6 payments of $19.95, can have these pocket readers.
They're not sponsoring the show, but I got to tell you, these are the greatest invention ever, because they go right here, and I never leave it on my phone.
I was wondering what that slot was on my phone case. Now I know I just need to get some of those.
No, I think yours is something else. I'm not sure. But the little pocket readers are great, so if you ever get the chance. But so that was a kind of a cool case. But we had another trial recently that we did. I think Dylan, you were there helping out with that trial. And boy, this is a case that went on forever. we had, and I didn't understand why. We kept going in, and we had, one of our Balder judges on the bench, and we'd go in, and he'd find a way to just extend things out, and it was, from my perspective, a very easy case because mom had absconded with the child inappropriately. And without dad's permission, she went off to another state, let's call it Wisconsin. And she was there in that state and wouldn't give dad her address, wouldn't give dad any access to the child, and actually filed a case in that state trying to get custody of the child. And we brought everything to the judge, and we let the judge know this is what's going on. The judge is like, okay, well, we'll just continue this for another few months. But when we got to court for the trial, the judge kind of explained his thoughts, and I was like, oh, that's why you were doing that. She's like, well, mom was pregnant at the time with another child. We didn't know if that was dad's child or not, so we had to wait until she had the baby. So that was the first continuance, and then we had a paternity test, and that was the second continuance. And certainly we don't want to bring the one child back when there could be another child, and so that was the third continuance. And then we came back and we had part one of the trial, but mom didn't show up, so that was the fourth continuance. And then I wanted the dad to have some visits with the new baby that turned out to be his, so that was the fifth continuance. And then we got here, and now we're at trial. I'm like, oh, well, it's almost like you had a plan from the very beginning. Why didn't you just share it with us, right? No, you're going to keep that a secret with us, going, just give us the kid back. That's what's supposed to be happening here. But we ended up getting to trial today, and boy, look, I hate to, it's almost like I'm picking on the skinny kid on the playground, right? Where mom showed up, and she's had attorneys in the past, but she decided to go it alone today. And
which is always a great idea.
Always
right?
Listen. Whenever you get the chance,
fails.
Whenever you get the chance to go to court and not bring an attorney, take it, because nothing bad will happen. Just like nothing bad happened to mom today. So she got in, and she had found Jesus over the past couple months, and she decided that the best way to win this was to participate. Because she had not participated for lots of months before, and she blew off dad's visitation that he was supposed to have with the child in Michigan, and she was supposed to return the child a lot earlier, but we ended up getting the child back in January. And she was supposed to be participating. She wasn't. She decided, now I'll participate. And it would have worked too if it wasn't for those meddling kids.
Oh. Well, every time.
This is the Scooby-Doo gang. But so she ends up coming to court today with this newfound air of participation. But it's our case, so I get to start questioning the parties, and I question Dad, and I get Dad's story out, which he's got practiced down to a T. He knows what's happening and what's happened and what we need to tell the judge. And we got his story out on the timeline that really helped his case the best, which is the true one. And then it's mom's turn, right? And so now sometimes what happens is in these cases, it's beneficial. If I've got the opposing party, maybe I let the opposing party or the opposing counsel do the direct examination on their client, because they have to be very careful and ask questions like, in a very specific way so that it's not leading and so that there's not too much, coaching going on with the opposing side, with that party. So you want to kind of do the cross-examination, because on cross, I can lead all day long, right? I can try and get them to do exactly what I want them to do. But one of the advantages that a non-represented party has is the judge kind of just lets them spout off for a while. And sometimes they come up with some very damning things that they want to say. And we don't want that to happen. So I had a couple of goals at trial. Goal number one, I want to be the one to question mom, not let her go off on her tangent. And number two, at some point, because you have to know the judge, okay? At some point, the judge is going to get so frustrated, he's going to take over and do the rest of it himself and not let her speak at all. Okay? So that was the goal. So we go and I start asking Mom all these questions, and I'm asking her about Dad's testimony. Isn't it true that you came in and you sent him this note or you brought your boyfriend with you, and boyfriend sent a note saying, I'm going to kill you, or no, what do you say? Don't worry about it. I've got other kids. You're not worth me killing you.
Right.
And a sort of compliment, right? Some people say I love you, and
every ex-girlfriend I've ever had has sent me the exact same message. That's all I'm going to say.
And so when Dad talked about that text message in court, Dad's saying, look, nobody's ever sent me a text message before that says, by the way, I don't want to kill you. And I'm like, well, what's the first thing that went through your mind? He wants to kill me, right? That's what went through my mind. And so I had to call the police and get an escort for this visitation we were supposed to do. And the police couldn't come for like 3 or 4 hours. So I didn't go, right? Now, Dad was on the hook. He should have been there. Mom had traveled all the way from Wisconsin to get here and do this visitation. And Dad didn't show up. And so we had to explain to the judge why Dad didn't show up so that Dad didn't get in trouble. Well, it's because Mom's husband apparently sent him a note saying, I'm not, by the way,
I don't not want to kill you.
I don't not want you alive. And so you're not worth my time to kill. Maybe a maim, maybe just a thorough thrashing, right? But not kill, certainly not kill. So Dad's got this text message. And I said, is it true you let your boyfriend send this text message? And Mom says, no, he didn't send that. I sent that. I'm like, you're the one that did it. Oh my goodness, I thought maybe you gave the phone to your husband. No, I'm the one that did it. But then she had this great line.
She didn't want to miss out on credit on that one. She was afraid someone else would get assigned their name to that one.
If I had given it to him, he would have said, I want to kill you. But me, I don't want to kill. So that's why I sent that. But she had this great line. Do you remember what the line was, Dill?
I do. You had to put me on the spot, didn't you? It was
you
some
had one
phrase
job.
that I've never heard in my entire life.
It was something to the effect of, well, if there's a cheetah in the jungle drinking coffee, you might not know what it's all about. Sounds good. Like she goes.
My grandpa used to say that pretty often.
Remember,
actually,
if there's a cheetah in the jungle drinking coffee, you might not know what he's reading on the paper. And I'm looking there going, well, I guess that's true.
Makes perfect sense to me.
I've never heard it quite phrased exactly that way before, but perhaps that means something to you. But you're the one. And then, is it true, like Dad said, you came to his house at like 2 a.m, banging on the door and making sure that the police were called and waking up all the neighbors? Well, yeah, that was me. Yeah, I did that. I'm like, no wonder Dad didn't show up. He was afraid for his life, and you proved at every turn that you may be the killer. You may be underneath this mask. You're Old Man Withers that was really the ghost that was haunting everyone. So we end up getting her to admit all this stuff, and then I start asking her what kind of time she wants, and she's like, well, I want primary custody. I'm like, oh, yeah, but what time? And she's like, well, I think I should have Christmas. I'm like, oh yeah, but what's the regular time that she wants? And she's like, well, what about or what should Dad have? And she's like, well, maybe every other weekend. I'm like, so you think the non-custodial parent should have every other weekend? And she's like, yeah. I go, okay, so if the non-custodial parent has every other weekend, that'd be great with you. She's like, yeah, that'd be great. And then maybe throw in some holidays, right? Do some exchanges. Yeah. And all of a sudden the judge is like, Mr. Smith, what are you doing? You know exactly what she's saying. She's not saying she wants every other weekend. She's saying she wants him to have every other weekend. I go, well, yeah, but we changed the questions, Judge. It wasn't just about him. It was about the non-custodial parent. Yeah, but she thinks she's going to be the custodial parent. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to know what she thinks, right? All I want to know is what the non-custodial parent should have. And he's like, oh, I go, well, look, Judge, if you feel that way, no more questions. And he's like, well, I have some questions. And so he starts taking over, right? And he starts asking her everything that he wants to ask. And we get to the end, and he's like, okay, I've asked ma'am, what do you have to say? And she's like, nothing. I don't have anything else to say. And the judge's like, oh, okay, we'll take a little break. And we come back in, and he's like, Mr. Smith, would we've gone through this whole trial. Do you want to do a closing argument? And I put my little strategy hand on. I'm like, if I give a closing argument, she's going to want to give a closing argument, and I don't want her to talk. Judge, I think you've heard enough. I think you understand the case well enough. Why don't you, I'll just waive my closing argument. He's like, okay, ma'am, would you like to give a closing argument? No, I would not. I would like to waive my closing argument. He's like, great. Let me go ahead and give my decision then. I'm giving Dad primary custody. He gets the kids. Ma'am, you left the state inappropriately. I've been trying to get you to cooperate and you haven't, and we're going to give Dad primary custody. And the mom's like, well, wait a minute. No, I didn't want that. I mean, I have some things to say. Dad's a bad guy. And I actually filed a motion to relocate. The judge's like, yep, and you didn't prove your case. And because you didn't prove your case, you lose. Goodbye. Case over.
But how much she saved on legal fees, I think it was all worth it.
It was all worth it. She almost got exactly what she wanted, except in reverse. She just flip-flopped it around.
Sometimes that happens.
Look, she had already spent $20,000 on the case. Why go all the way to the end? Why?
You got to know your judge, right? And so, I pushed the judge just long enough, kept on the questions that he didn't want to hear, long enough for him to, that's it. I'm going to take over. Thank you, Judge. Please do the rest of the job for us. So, that's yet another way to win a court, but you got to know your judge.
Gotta know your judge.
You gotta know your judge. And when this particular judge starts rubbing his head all the way back, and
banging his head against the table.
He's like Angus on The Simpsons, right? I've had enough, and rips the shirt open. So anyway, so that was some of the legal shenanigans we've had lately. It's a couple good outcomes for the client, so that's really nice. What else is going on?
What else is going on?
You've been following that Menendez case?
The Menendez case. Menendez. I've heard a little bit about it.
What do you know?
Here and there. Well, obviously there's been the documentaries about it coming out, so it's kind of re-stirred the pot, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm young enough. I mean, you were 6. You rode here in your lifted Jeep with your vanity plates, and I rode here on the pegs of Dylan's bikes. so I obviously we don't remember when this was all current.
Oh, listen. Okay.
Actually, someone who lived
Speak for yourself. I remember the exact moment that story broke.
I don't know that I followed everything, but this was actually a case. The original Menendez case was the case when I was like 18 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, and I was living in Southern California at the time. This is a Southern California case, but it's popped back up. What have you heard?
Oh, there's a case where there's these 2 kids out in Beverly Hills out in the 80s, and they killed their parents, right?
Why, though?
Why?
Now that's the big question.
That's the question.
Why? There's the rub, laddie.
Because to my understanding, it didn't take very much. At first, obviously, they just think it's just some random people who came and killed the parents, some enemy of the dad.
Well, that's kind of the story they put out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Must have been the mob.
We were just at the movies.
Yeah.
We were just down watching Jaws or Goonies or whatever movie was out that year.
Right.
And finally, they kind of figure out these kids go on a big old spending spree.
Jaws was like 1975. Thank you very much. Not 1989.
Told you I wasn't there. Who knows?
Clearly.
Could have been Phantom Menace. Who knows?
No.
Napoleon Dynamite?
No.
What was out that year?
Inception?
What was playing that year?
Anyway, what did you hear, Dill?
Well, so it's Lyle and Eric Menendez, right?
Okay,
These 2 kids, and they're teenagers in the late 80s with wealthy parents, and they decided to brutally murder their 2 parents in their home.
Buy a couple shotguns and go to town.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how did they catch them? Do we know?
Well, the big part of it was, obviously they get all this money. They have a big old windfall. The dad was worth millions of dollars. I think about 14 million.
Record exec or something like that.
Something. Yeah. He was in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So he'd been with RCA, Live Entertainment, these big companies. So they obviously get this big windfall. It's basically like the lottery gets won for them.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they go on a giant spending spree. And somebody starts.
So the kids killed the parents and then just went to town.
All of a sudden they're buying Porsches, they're buying jewelry, and all of a sudden somebody goes, maybe that was motive.
Yeah, but I mean, if dad's worth millions and they inherit the millions, why wouldn't they be able to spend the money?
Good question.
Well, you have every right to spend the money, right? But it's kind of a weird thing to do the day after your dad and your mom get brutally murdered in your house.
Maybe timing.
To go out and party in LA.
Okay, all right, noted.
So they start kind of looking into it and they go, well, obviously these kids would have had to buy some guns.
Yeah.
They're going to do it. They look into it. All of a sudden they find a gun shop somewhat nearby the house where they went and bought a gun or bought 2 shotguns under their friends, using their friend's ID. And there it was.
Okay, so they put that together. But there was a thing about a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the therapist thing?
Look, so the dad, Jose Menendez is what his name was?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so Jose, look, there's this wealthy family, right? And so his kids kind of have issues, is what it seems like, all growing up. So he's got Eric Menendez seeing a therapist. Dr. Oziel is his name.
Yep. Good old Oziel.
Yes.
Dr. Oz?
Nobody more trustworthy than an
Dr.
Oziel.
Oz?
Before he shortened it, he was Oziel.
Interesting.
Yes. So anyways, Dr. Oziel. So
Oz.
they set up this
Ozempic.
plan to kill their parents, and as soon as they carry out the plan, Eric starts feeling all guilty about it. So he calls up his therapist, Dr. Oziel, and he tells him he needs an appointment, goes and essentially confesses to the therapist.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. And did they use that testimony in court?
They did use it.
Okay, so this is the fascinating part about that. He confesses to the doctor. But there's doctor-patient privilege or therapist-patient privilege, just like attorney-client privilege. If you were to tell me, here's the rub, the distinction, okay? If you tell me, hey, I murdered my friend Kaysen,
Interesting choice of name.
Wouldn't be sad at all. But
I had just texted Kaysen yesterday that I would never kill him. So anyways, go on.
As your attorney, I couldn't tell anybody. And same thing with the doctor. So, so how do you get around that?
Well, let me ask you this, Kaysen. Let's say you and I go out and kill some guy. Hang on. But if you told me I'm going to kill the president, okay,
I have a duty to tell. So I don't know if you're telling me about a crime you're about to commit, I have a duty to tell and stop you. But if you tell me about a crime you just committed, nothing I can do.
So in the case where a crime has already been committed, is there any circumstances where it gets big enough where the confidentiality and the privilege is allowed to get broken, or allowed to get used?
You're talking about like a Napoleon syndrome, right? If I kill one man, I'm a murderer, but if I kill thousands, I'm a conqueror, right? No.
So it never reaches a point where now it's a federal case, or now it's where it escalates high enough where it's allowed.
I'm not allowed around it. In fact, I can lose my license if I tell.
Exactly. But in this situation, right, me and Kaysen commit a crime, and Kaysen finds out that I went and told you, my therapist, every single thing about it, incriminating Kaysen.
Okay.
How are you going to feel about that?
I might be a little TO'd.
Yeah, that's exactly how Lyle felt. What do you know? Lyle felt a little TO'd about all that.
A little detail to throw in there, which I believe Lyle was aware of. I don't think Eric was. What the dad actually specifically found a therapist where he would then break that confidentiality only to him.
Oh, really?
So
that was their setup all along growing up.
So that he made the therapist sign a paper that he would then turn everything over to him. so that he could almost use it as a way to kind of spy on his kids. I
Interesting.
believe
Yes, you're exactly right.
Lyle, the one who wasn't with the therapist, I believe he knew about that, which made him extra angry because he knew the therapist couldn't be trusted.
Snitch.
Yes.
And guess what?
Well,
snitches
but the only
get?
person the therapist is allowed to tell is 6 feet under.
And in small pieces.
But he at least knows this guy's compromised.
True.
Okay.
Well, that probably did play a role, but he was just TO'd that somebody else now knows what actually happened. So he calls Dr. Oziel and starts threatening him, telling him he's going to kill him. And, well, I'll let the legal mind deduce what that...
Okay, so Lyle
Yes.
calls Dr. Oziel and says, "Hey, Dr. Oziel, I think you're a big snitch, and snitches get stitches, and as a result, I'm going to kill you."
At least in the dramatized documentary, that's about what happened.
Okay, so interesting. So look, here's a lesson to be learned. There are privileges out there. Okay. Attorney-client privilege, doctor-patient privilege, priest-parishioner privilege, lots of different privileges, okay? Once you turn on the person with the privilege, okay? Let's say I represent you in court for the murder of the Menendez parents, right? And this would never happen, okay? But we lose.
Oh,
We would totally won that
I've
one.
never heard that word escape your lips before.
But let's just say we did that and we lose. And then you turn to me and you're like, you know what? You like losing cases, do you, old man? How about you lose this one? I'm going to kill you, right? Or you start publishing articles in the paper. Kurt Smith is the worst criminal attorney in the world. Or you start, threatening my livelihood or whatever the case may be. You, my friend, have now breached the attorney-client privilege, and I am at liberty to disclose anything I want. And so now I get to come out and go, oh, you like to threaten your attorney? Well, guess what? When I was with Kaysen told me he actually bought the gun for the Menendez brothers. He should have been prosecuted as well. You do not want to turn on the person with the privilege, okay? Because once you do, the cat is now out of the bag. I can disclose whatever I want, and a lot of people don't understand that, but they really should, because we get to tell, okay? And we
It's
don't.
the reason why you always get a Christmas basket from me.
Every single year, and I do appreciate that very much, although I really don't like the saltines. So,
To each their own.
well, I'm letting you know now. That way, it's well in advance of Christmas. So that's Menendez Part 1, and they got convicted based on the fact that the therapist is like, "Oh, I know how the parents died. They told me how he died. They told me they shot him." And so now, because of the breach of the therapist-client privilege, they get convicted, but they're back in the news.
Well, even before that, so in that same trial, actually, it actually went on a little bit longer,
Yeah.
where they came in and they were actually fighting for essentially saying the dad was a sexual abuser.
Oh, absolutely.
And so basically saying that ever since they were 6 years old, that the dad was making them do things,
Right.
he was doing things to
Okay,
them,
okay.
which then kind of swayed the jury, where some of them believed, okay, this isn't actually murder, this is manslaughter.
Okay.
This is voluntary manslaughter.
Self-defense.
Self-defense, because essentially they were under the belief that if we allow this to keep going, and because they claimed that the dad had come and put a knife to their throats and
my.
said, if you tell anybody what's been going on between us, I'm gonna kill you.
Okay.
So now they're believing if we let this keep going, this is gonna end up with us dead. So all of a sudden the jury starts to get a little conflicted, where half of them are going one way and half of them are going one way.
Okay.
And so what it ends up being in the first trial they do is actually it ends in a mistrial.
Sounds like some of them were Lyle Curious.
Yes.
Okay.
They actually were wearing T-shirts in their the Lyle Curious shirts.
Team Lyle. Now, okay, so the sexual abuse claim, kind of like a Casey Anthony defense, it rears its head again, and that was mistrial number 1. But then they got convicted at trial number 2, right?
Yep.
What was the issue there, Dill? If you know.
I think the biggest thing is they were successful in trial number 1, and they barely failed to sway the jury, which got it thrown out, but they were almost
The
successful.
prosecution failed to sway the jury.
Well, both sides.
Both-
In
I
ways,
guess so.
they both
Yeah,
did.
they
the
both
jury
failed.
was split, and they deliberated for an entire month on
is that
their
right?
own, and couldn't come to a conclusion.
Right. So, I mean, but it's not proper, right? And you correct me, but if I'm testifying about a murder case and I'm the defendant and I start giving testimony about my dad and how he's a sexual abuser, that's irrelevant to this case. There's an argument to
There's
be
an
made.
argument to be made, sure.
And so, but at the first trial, they were successful. The defense was successful in getting that testimony through and getting it allowed to be admitted to the jury.
Gotcha.
And if I can
And-
add one thing, because
Please.
they were actually saying that it wasn't this calculated thing, it wasn't super in advance. We bought the guns because we thought the parents might do something. So now we have the guns on hand just out of self-defense. Should the parents come in, we're ready for it.
Sounds calculated to me.
Then
Go
the
ahead.
dad tells them, I think essentially it was over one of the kids wanting to go to college, the dad telling him he can't go, so it kind of sparks this whole thing. The dad tells him to go upstairs, and they're basically convinced he's going to kill us right now, is how the story goes.
Right.
So what do? Well, we're not going to let him come up here and kill us. We're going to go down and Uno reverse card, and we're going to run downstairs with our shotguns, and boom, boom. And that's exactly what happened,
Why'd they kill the mom?
according to their story.
Well, if they're taking dad's the sexual abuser allegedly, why'd they kill the mom?
Now, if you can believe it, so with the mom, they never claimed that the mom had any involvement, anything was going on, but that she knew about it and chose not to do anything and was also a victim of the dad. So they kind of believed, okay, we're kind of putting her out of her misery, that she doesn't have to, she couldn't survive without the dad.
Kind of the horse with the broken leg.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry,
Sometimes
you
you
old
just-
sow. Go ahead and take you out.
Sometimes when Seabiscuit is laying there, you just gotta.
Look, they felt so sorry for her. They had no choice but to fill her with about 7 to 17 rounds out of shotgun shells.
Point blank range.
Yes.
Okay. Well, listen, it happens. You know, it happens.
So a question on that. So they claim that they believe that the dad was actually going to come kill them.
Right.
So if you actually have somebody, we're over at your house and all of a sudden you tell me, hey, your family's upstairs, and if you try to do anything about it, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to kill them. And then all of a sudden,
so the allegation of the
I
point
have
of
your
the story
family
is
upstairs.
I'm sexually molesting you right now, is what you're saying.
No.
Thank you for putting that in the viewers' minds.
just remember that. Don't think sexual molester and Kurt. Whatever you do,
Please
don't
don't.
associate
Please.
those two
I
things.
thought he was the molestee.
But then all of a sudden, the person who's the victim of this whole thing supposedly has their family upstairs. They then kill the person who has their family upstairs.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, police arrive and their family's not upstairs. The person had no weapon, but they told them they did. If I'm supposedly the victim of this whole thing, and I've believed that this person does have my family upstairs, and I just saved them all by killing this guy, do I have any sort of case? Because that's essentially what they're claiming, is if we let this keep going, this guy's gonna come kill us.
I
We
killed
believe
him
it.
before he killed me.
Exactly.
You know, so
But there was actually no real threat. There was no weapons. In the end, there was nothing. There was no family upstairs.
okay, so I'm going to pare this down for the viewers. What Kaysen said made no sense, but I think what he's actually
It
trying
did,
to say
to a more elevated mind.
Yeah, okay. So, so what you're saying is essentially, you know, in order to stop the crime that's about to happen, I get to kill you because you're going to kill me.
Yes. But then it turns out provably there was no crime about to happen.
Well, yeah, that eliminates the entire story, right? If there was no crime about to happen. You have to have reasonable fear of harm. And what's the reasonable fear of harm? Now, if I'm sitting on the couch watching TV and you come in with shotguns blaring and blow my head off, where's the intent? Where's the harm, imminent harm that's about to happen? I can't say, you know, I sent a letter to you, for example, in 15 years, I'm going to kill you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to preempt that now and kill you now. No, you have 15 years to get away, right? And that's probably what you should do. Not, I was watching him with the remote in his hand, and I could tell that it was either continue watching Wheel of Fortune or kill me. Yeah, that's probably not going to sway anybody, okay? So no, it's got to be a threat of imminent harm. He came at me with the knife. He came at me with the gun. And we get into these kind of situations, even in like battery cases, right? So you have, let's say we're at a bar, right? And we're sitting there having drinks, and I look over you and go, "You're a bastard," and I punch you in the face, right? I'm guilty of battery. Now, as you're sitting there from my one punch, weeping like a little baby and bleeding like the bleeder that you are, and I get up, I finish my beer, I walk out the door, I'm walking down the street, and you're like, and then you wipe yourself off, and you're like, "You know what? Nobody does that to me." And you come running after me like a little girl, and you then sneak up behind me, because that's what you'd have to do, and you punch me, and I barely feel a tap, but you punch me as hard as you can.
Is there a gust of wind?
Right. And I go, "Oh, that is there? It's you. It's the sissy boy." Do I then, is that self-defense on you? No, that's a secondary battery, okay? And that's what happens all the time. So you can reasonably get charged, even though I was the aggressor. Your sissy of a punch that came to me is now a secondary battery. Whereas if I punch you and then you punch me in self-defense trying to get away, that would not be a battery on me or on you. Right.
So basically, when all of a sudden they find the parents, there's no evidence they had any weapons, there's no evidence they had any intention. Their case kind of, where does it go? Other than just sympathy for the jurors, I mean, there's not really much there, right?
Not much there. So they get convicted, they get life in prison. There's a new case very recently that came up, and the new case, somebody came forward, right?
No, well, what I had heard about it was that just a couple weeks ago, or days ago even, there was a hearing because they were trying to make
Dad was in the record industry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, you're right. Dad was in the record industry, and at the time, actually right before the murder, he was working with this new group that he had discovered, right? Menudo. So there's one of the singers in this group, Menudo, came forward and made claims that Jose Menendez also sexually abused him. Right.
And so that kind of corroborated the story that they'd been trying to tell all along, that they were victims. Mm-hmm. And so apparently me gusta bailar, but no me gusta
chingar, yeah.
Chingar, right. So that corroborates the story, and they got a new sentence, which is like 35 to life.
Well, they were sentenced to life, and now they're sentenced to 35 to life. Yes, 35 to life, which they've already served 35. So now they're eligible for parole.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's the story of the Menendez brothers.
So,
look,
moral of the story: don't take a bite out of the menudo; it could come back to get you.
Oh yeah, so keep the menudo for the soup, not for the bad music. Look, that looks like all the time we have for this episode of The Legal Smith Unleashed. If you liked what you hear, like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Legal Smith Unleashed.